So anyway, you should know that about all the classes that I do here, or at least for the most part, that's going to be the case. So once you get to Canvas, I'm just going to do a new window. I'm not to Canvas. Once you get online, you want to type in Canvas in the address bar, .column. Oh, come on. .edu. And it should take you to a Canvas site. It should ask you to log in the same way Moodle used to ask you to log in. Did that not happen to you? All right, so let me see if I can log out of this so that I can log back in. Shoot. All right, so is everybody into Canvas yet? Is anybody not? Okay, so once in there, if you look at your dashboard, how many people in here, this is the first time they're seeing Canvas is this semester? Okay, so the rest of you guys have a little bit of experience with it? Okay, fine. So anyway, if you look on the left-hand side over here on this part right over in here, there's a little thing that's supposed to look like a computer, I guess. If you click on that, it will fly out. It'll give you a thing that says courses, and down here at the bottom, if you click on all courses, it should show you everything that is available to you. Is that true? Yes.
This class isn't available. Like I can't click on it. It's not like published.
Oh, well that would be interesting. Maybe it's because I haven't published it. Try now.
Hey, we're in there.
Okay, that's about all I can handle for the night. Check the rest. All right, so is everybody there? We good? Okay, so this thing has come up. So I just want to give everybody a quick tour. This isn't going to be a class on Canvas, but I want to give everybody just a quick tour of what's going on because you'll see, it'll give you some reference so you'll know where to go. If you look up at the very top, this is where announcements are. This is where I will be actually sending out things to you guys. Hopefully you got some of this. Did anybody get any announcements as an email by any chance? Okay, well, you're going to get them now. So the first announcement I said was that you did not need to bring your camera tonight. If you wanted to, you could, but you did not need to. Possibly bring your camera next week. I will shoot out an email depending on how far we get into things this week. I'll shoot out another announcement to let you know that I think we're probably we'll be doing a little more hands-on camera next week. So just so that you know that. The other thing is that you'll see on here there is an announcement that says enroll in the photo department facilities website. If you click on that to open it up, you will see that there's a link in here. It is. So just so that you know, all the websites, facility websites for visual art and design are located on this page. We cannot auto-enroll you in that. So you simply need to click on this link once. You should get a confirmation that you have been auto-enrolled in this thing, and it will then also show up as a potential Canvas site for you. So if you want to check on the hours of the digital print lab, or you want to know how much it costs to do a mural print there, or whatever, blah, 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 you'll have access to all that material. So it's just so that you know that that part exists there. And I'm going to hit my back arrow to go back a little bit. This is the main page. This is the welcome page that actually happens here. You probably will not spend a whole lot more time here, but I just want to give everybody a quick idea of what is going on here and just sort of like a quick tour around this. This is photo practice number 3. This is who I am. If you need to get in touch with me, simply click on the contact link info. This is my office hours are on Mondays from 1 to 5. I do meet people outside of classes. I'm really pretty good about that. This is a link to my website. This is my cell number. Texting is really my sort of preferred way of communicating, although I do answer all of my emails. This is my official Columbia email. So however you want to get a hold of me, get a hold of me. Do not call me or text me in the middle of the night or I will flunk your sorry ass so quick. No, just kidding. I'm an insomniac, so I don't, if I can manage to get to sleep and somebody then calls me, and oh, hi. Anyway, back to the home page. There are important dates about this. This is all boilerplate. You guys should know all these important dates. It's the add dates, the drop dates. It's dates for withdrawal with no consequences. It's when you need to get out to get your money back. It's all of those dates. That's what's going on here. About this course, if you click on that, you'll see it's a bunch of boilerplate about the description, what's required for this, the money you've got to pony up, what the grading scale is, the whole 9 yards. Again, you guys probably don't care about much of that. So anyway, that was the about this course. Students start here. If you click on this, it will take you to actually the very top of our module page. This is pretty much your semester at a glance. It is broken down by week. However, I don't put things in as weeks. I put them in as sessions because that way I don't have to go in and rip out Thanksgiving holiday or anything else. So anyway, session 1 is the first week. Session 2 is the second week. It's pretty self-evident. If you go all the way down, you'll see that there are 15 weeks in this class. Back up at the top, you'll see that there's a course overview. We'll get to that in just a second. Go back to the home page really quickly. Oh, by the way, if you haven't gotten onto this yet, I tend to speak really fast. So all I can say about that is that if at any point during any of this, for any reason or anything, I lose you, stop me. It's a whole lot easier to back up 5 minutes than it is to try to help you figure out an entire class you missed. Does that sort of make sense? So I'm just throwing that out there really quick. Anyway, and then finally, the last thing down here, this Canvas FAQ student guide. If you click on this, this will take you to, this is actually run by the people who manage Canvas. It's an FAQ, so pretty much anything that you want to do in Canvas. So you don't know how to reply to a discussion group, or you don't know how to submit an assignment, or you don't know how to whatever. This is the place that you can go to, and you can figure everything out. You'll be good to go on that. You don't have to worry about it a whole lot. So that's kind of a quick tour of the top page, or the front page. There are buttons on here that will take you to each session, which again is each week. The reason I actually built this, the reason I built it this way is this should be very phone friendly and tablet friendly. There are 2 Canvas applications that you can download for your phone or for your tablet. One of them is for students, one of them is for teachers. Don't do the teacher one, it won't do you any good. It'll pretty much lock you out. It's the student one. You log in exactly the same way you would log in here. Once you log in the first time, it'll take you there over and over and over again. So you'll be able to get access to all of that part. Before we leave this page, I want to look at something else. So anyway, announcements will be at the top. This is how I'll communicate to you guys. And sometimes I'll do this. Sometimes I'll do a blanket email to everybody. Sometimes I will do a specific target email to just one person or 2 people, whatever. So anyway, that's pretty much how I communicate. If you click on this thing though that says syllabus, it'll take you to what is not really a syllabus page. If you want to see the syllabus for this class, it's right here, the full syllabus. You can either view this thing or download it. If you click on the link itself, and this is true of most of any of the PDF links that exist on this site, if you click on the link, it's going to actually offer to download the thing for you. If you want to download that and open it, that's fine. If you would prefer just to view it in this page, you click on the little icon, and it'll open up a viewer for you, and you can actually then zip through the PDF right here. To get rid of that window that just opened up, you click on this Minimize File Preview, and that will actually get rid of it. But the thing that I really wanted to show you that exists here is this, what they call, it's this course summary. So this will give you a list of every single assignment and its due date in here. So I know that some of you are thinking right now, you gotta be fucking kidding me. That's one long list of assignments. The way I do assignments here, and you should just know that this is how they work here, is they have numbers to them. The assignment number system that I use is that the first number is the week that it happens in. The second number is the assignment for that week. So assignment 1-1 is the first assignment for week 1. Assignment 1-2 is the second assignment for week 1. Make sense? Pretty simple, right? There is a fair amount of reading in this class that happens up in the very beginning. So that's why there's a large number of assignments. There's also quite a bit of video content in here that I'm asking you guys to watch. I personally, I think video stuff is easier to digest than just endless text. But nonetheless, that's kind of what this is all about. The reason they all exist here is a lot of these have no grades at all. A lot of these do have grade point values, but most of these really don't. They're there to tell you that this thing exists and that I want you to do this. So that sort of makes sense. Um, the one thing that I can say about the reading part that involves here, it seems like most of you guys read. Um, it will help you out. It'll get a jump on certain things. So it's not that you're going to fail this class if you don't read something. There's no way, frankly, that I can track whether you read stuff or not. Wouldn't that be creepy if I could? Yeah. Did they tell you about the camera live feed, though, that I get on all your computers? Yeah, don't let that make you nervous. No, just kidding. That creeps me out, though. How many people here have a little post-it note over the camera on their computer? None of you? Wow. Yeah, I couldn't either, right? Okay. Anyway, so that's just a quick thing of what's going on here. The last thing that I will point out to you is this, and it's this calendar that sits at this side over here. If you come to the calendar over here, the other place that you can get to your calendar is also on the left side over here. It's right under the thing that looks like your computer. If you click on that, it will open up a monthly calendar for you, and it will show you everything that is due for our classes. So in this case, you will see that in mine, there are assignments that are actually due on this. Now, it is my understanding that all of your classes populate this. So you're going to see like a shit show on this calendar, right? However, you can go over here in the calendars on the side over here and you can uncheck things so that they don't show up in your calendar. So if you only want to see what's going on here in Photo Practice 3, turn all of your other classes off and you'll see only the stuff that's showing up in Photo Practice 3. I need to get all of mine off. So at any rate, just so that you know that that's what's going on here. If you click on one of these things, it will take you into the assignment and you can actually read it here, although this is not, in my opinion, the best way to actually go about doing this. But nonetheless, I just wanted everybody to be familiar that that's what was going on here. Once you're in the calendar page like this, you would think that you would be able to get back. Well, you can sort of by using your back arrow, but there is no link in this that I have ever been able to find that will allow me to get back to my home page. So I am going to just use my backlink to try to get me back to the home page right here, and then click on home page and it'll get us back. So are there any questions about any of this part right here that you will probably never look at again? You have any idea how much blood, sweat, and tears I put into this homepage?
I appreciate it.
Thank you. I had to write 10 classes for Canvas over the summer. What'd you guys do this summer? Oh, I went to Africa.
Oh, really?
Did that sound like I was trying to one-up you?
No.
I wasn't.
No.
How was Hawaii?
It was good.
Where?
Oahu.
Beautiful. My niece just moved to Oahu. Mm-hmm. Anyway, to go on next, click on the Students Start Here. So if you click on that, this takes us into our Moodle, into the modules page. And I need everybody to go through this part with me really quickly. This is the last time I'll ask you to do this. I probably won't spend a whole lot more time here, but I just want to make sure everybody's sort of familiar with how to navigate Canvas. If you click on Course Overview, it will open it up, and you will see a very brief thing about this. So it's going to tell you what's going on in this class really quickly. There's an important note about how I want you to name assignments. Fair number of the assignments you're going to turn in via Canvas. Occasionally, there's assignments that you're going to have to turn in on a server that is connected to all the computers here, which reminds me, I need to make sure that all you people who are on laptops know how to get to the server. At any rate, the only real requirement for this class that you're actually going to need to come up with is there is some of the assignments that we do are going to call for prints. How many people in this room feel good about their printing? Well, that's good. How many people like to print? That's also good. So at any rate, I've tried to keep it to a dull roar, what's actually going to happen in here. So you can see up in here, these are final prints. So this would not be, if you're the kind of person that in order to get a single final print, knocks out 25 working prints, whatever, your print volume, the amount of paper that you're going to need clearly will go up. But this is going to give you some idea of what I need final print wise. There is also a mural print assignment for this class, but we will deal with that later when that actually happens. So I do encourage you to get together with other people. I mean, if you're a person who normally prints anyway, then it doesn't matter. You're going to have paper regardless. But if you're a person who hates to print and you only do everything electronically and you're like, fuck this, I don't want to buy paper, then get together with all the other people who feel just like you and buy and split a pack of paper together. Okay? Make sense? Okay. But at any rate, the labeling here, this is I'm possibly passed over that a little quickly. It's really specific how I want you to name your assignment stuff. And it is this last name underscore first name underscore assignment number underscore image number. You will see this on every single assignment that I actually give you guys. So you don't have to refer back to this. It's in all the language of all the assignments. It's just a way that I always know what assignment it is you're actually supposed to be turning in to me. When there is an assignment that calls for multiple prints, that's what the final number on all of this is about. You are welcome to do variations on this. If you want to put, if there's multiple print assignments due, you could build a folder that simply has this naming convention on it and throw all your prints in there, whatever. It's just so that I know what it is you are actually turning in. So with that being said, you'll see at the bottom of all this, there's a little next button. If you click on the next button, it'll take you to the next page, which is the course resources. This is how everything is structured in this Canvas class. Every single session will have an overview to it, and it'll tell you basically what we're going to do in that session. And then you have these course resources. So I've tried to make course resources into something that's more manageable for you guys to sort of like point you in the right direction. The structure of these is all the same. Occasionally there will be more categories in this, but for the most part it's always the same. Readings is usually the one that's always at the top, and this is stuff that I actually want you to get through. So, but we're going to talk about it really quickly here. My late assignment policy, everybody needs to know this one because this comes up over and over and over. So I'm just going to go through it really quickly. Matter of fact, if you click on the little icon right next to it, a little PDF window will open up, and it'll tell you exactly what it is. It's pretty straightforward. I do not accept late assignments. If you get an assignment in on time, which I expect, it'll be graded. If you don't get it in on time, you get flagged with a 0 for that. Zeros will kill you in this class. I'm telling you that right now. However, if you do manage to get that late assignment in before the end of the semester, I won't bother to look at it. Well, actually, I will look at it, but I won't grade it. However, instead of having a 0 for that assignment, I will give you a 59, which will save you in the end. But at the end of the day, what this ultimately boils down to is you have to do every assignment for this class. There's just no escaping it. So the question is, do you do it on time and actually get a decent grade for it, or do you turn them in late and flunk? So that's my late assignment policy. That went quick and well. Everybody seems very happy about that one. The final project requirements on this, again, if you click on that little guy and open it up, basically you will see what I'm expecting from this. Now, this tends to be a little bit more flexible. How many people in this room would consider themselves an adult? How many wouldn't? I like the way you think. At this point in my life, I'm in denial as well. But nonetheless, you are. So I am not in the position to say to you, you need to have 18 prints that are all 11 by 14 mounted on whatever. That's just not my job. The final project for this class is supposed to be a synthesis of the things that you have learned in this class. But for you to do a project in this class that does not have anything to do with the kind of work that you want to do is pointless. Fair enough? So what I'm looking for is something that is evident of you taking this class serious enough to actually put in the time and effort to produce something that I would call the final project. But that largely is up to you. Are there questions about that? Okay, it will be printed, though. That's the one thing that I will insist on this. There is a textbook for this class. It's this guy right here, the Adobe Photoshop CC for Photographers. It's a Martin Evening book. You will be happy to know that not until this class, which, oh, by the way, you guys know that you're a first. This is the first version of this class.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they renamed it, but I also rewrote it. So this is actually much better than the old version. Yes. Shoot. So what they had done was they felt like there was an enormous amount of redundancy in digital 1 and 2, and there was. So what they have decided to do was to try to combine those two. But the argument that I had also made to them in favor of doing this is that so many of you are coming in here with some level of Photoshop skill already. The original digital 1 and 2 were written when this was an analog school. And there was no Photoshop. Well, there was a Photoshop, but does that sort of make sense? Yeah. So you guys are coming into this much better prepared. There was a bunch of redundancy that existed in there. So the idea was to leverage what you guys already know and not teach you boring things that you already know, and to sort of move that whole thing along. But we'll see how it goes.
So is there a photo practice 4?
No, this is it. You go from here. If you want to stick with Photoshop, then you come visit me in retouching. I'm excited about this, though. You should know that part. But that being said, I will say this to you also. There's an enormous amount of content that is crammed into this class. We'll see how this goes. I promise you I won't kill you. I'll just work you to death. Okay. So at any rate, until this class happened, they did not have a copy of this electronic textbook in the library, which they do now, so you do not have to buy this textbook. If you click on this link, depending on where you are, if you click on it, like for me here in campus, if I click on it, I go right to it. If you're off campus, you will have to log into the library. And again, it's pretty obvious how they do it. They ask you for your Oasis ID and your last name. It's their login page is pretty specific about what they need. And then the minute you get access to the library off campus, then you will also have access to this part. This is an extraordinary resource. You should leverage this and use this. Martin Evening was one of the original. There's like an original group of Photoshop people that decided they really didn't want to spend their time talking about, how filters could like make people look like, balloon toy animals and shit like that. But they were really serious about production strength and production grade Photoshop. Martin Evening was actually one of those guys. So at any rate, it's an extraordinary resource. You should leverage it. How many people in here have never been to lynda.com? Okay, so Columbia has given you this $350 subscription a year resource that will allow you to learn damn near anything. It is an extraordinary resource that you should leverage. And it's not just about creative arts. If you want to learn how to program an Excel spreadsheet, this is the place to go to learn it. If you want to pick up, it's this incredible resource. It's also, it's so important, they've actually made it a link that sits right over here on the left-hand side of your thing. So if you click on it, it will give you access to it. The one thing that I can tell you don't do is don't just open up a new page and type in lynda.com, because when you do, it's going to ask you to log in. And when you try to log in using Columbia's credentials, even though you would think you would be able to do that, it is just a long, deep, dark rabbit hole you're going to go down, and you'll hate your life. An hour later, you still won't be in. Simply click on this link, and you'll get there. It's much easier to do that. But at any rate, you will notice up here at the top, there's a thing called readings. I want you to read those things. Here, this is called support. And in support, it's there for you. It's not something, I don't expect you to read this textbook. I don't expect you to go to lynda.com and browse everything that's in there, whatever. It's there for you to use it, okay, to leverage that part. So, for instance, there are going to be some things that we go through in this class that we talk about, and some of you guys are going to know it right away, and some of you guys are going to be struggling with it, and all of a sudden, it's like, for me, the way I always refer to this, it's like having a camera manual. Nobody reads a camera manual cover to cover. That would just be pitifully stupid and painful. However, if you want to know how to reset the autofocus points in your camera, you want to know that you go to page 89 and you can read it really quick and you're good to go. That's what support's all about. Make sense? Okay. So, keyboard shortcuts. How many people here use keyboard shortcuts for Photoshop? Good for you. I don't. There's tests and shit that I'm supposed to be giving you about that. I don't use them. I'll never give you one. There is a thing of digital glossary imaging terms in here. Go ahead and just click on the icon really quick for me. You'll actually just see what it is. It's just all of a sudden you have absolutely no idea what absolute colorimetric rendering intent means. This is a place that you can go and find out. By the way, how many people in here do know exactly what absolute colorimetric rendering intent does mean? And you're all twos and threes, right? Okay. I love it. Okay, I'm going to minimize that. I'm going to get out of that. So that's basically the course resources. If you click on the next button again, it's going to take you into the overview of session 1. This is what we're going to try to get through today. How am I doing? I know, you're all still on the fence. You're judging. You're thinking, what is up with this guy? Anyway, this is what hopefully we're going to try to get through today. I have welcomed you. I am giving you the class overview. We've talked about where the syllabus is. My course expectations that each and every one of you are going to become stellar stars, rich and famous in your career, wealthy beyond all imagination, and in gratitude, you are going to come find me in the home that I am in my rocking chair, and you're going to bring me salt and bourbon, not in that order. And you're going to push me in my rocking chair and tell me how great your life turned out because of the brief time we spent together. That's my course expectations. Discussion. We're going to get into this part. This will be really more than nuts and bolts. There is a shooting aspect and an art aspect to this class. There is a technical aspect to this class. How many people believe that art and technique are really not the same thing, or concept and technique are not the same thing, or are unrelated? Can be? Do they have to be? Quite possibly, right? How many people in here? No, I'll go down. We'll save that argument for when I really get angry. Okay, so we're going to go through. This is going to be a little part of the more art part of it. We'll get into this because this goes into your first assignment. Then we will talk about cameras, hard drives, exposures. We're going to get in a little bit of that. Workflow, Lightroom workflow. So all of you guys are in that sort of 1, 2, 3 area for Photoshop. Where are you at in your Lightroom skills? Anybody in this room not comfortable with Lightroom? Is anybody in here? Because occasionally, you know, we get, sometimes there's transfer students who haven't used Lightroom at all, some people, but are you guys feeling pretty good about Lightroom? Okay, yeah? Okay, we're going to blow through a little bit of that really quickly tonight. I'm going to sort of like save it out to the end just to make sure everybody is not lying to me. Because basically this is how I've tried to structure the shooting part of this class is I try to make every assignment that we have 2 weeks long. The first week you'll actually shoot material, and I want to see top edits in Lightroom of that. So I want to see your top 10 picks or your top 20 picks, something like that. I don't expect them to be tricked out. I'm trying to see what it is you're shooting and that you are shooting, right? And then the second week is going to be more the finished product. The second week is going to be more taking those final things, narrowing them down to the 1 or 2 or whatever the assignment calls for, running it through Photoshop, and then ultimately either showing us electronic versions of that or actual final prints. Does that sort of make sense? So that's kind of the idea about this. So the Lightroom part of it, we get away from extremely fast. You still will be turning in catalogs, but as far as that part goes, that's about we are not going to be talking about Lightroom pretty much after today, I hope. How many people in this room would say that they have a disciplined, color-managed workflow in their lives? That will change tonight. How many people in here pull test prints? You know, you do a test print to check for color. How many people do that? Oh, come on, raise your hands up high. You are all, right? I haven't done a test print in 10 years. I am that good. My system is that good. So wouldn't you like to do that? How many people in here struggle with exposure? Oh, come on, you are all liars. How many people, okay, so let me rephrase that. How many people in this room have perfect exposure for every single situation they shoot, always, 100% of the time. Me. Swear to God. And guess what? I'm going to show you how to do that too. So after, hopefully, not just this week, it may take us till next week to get through that, you're going to have perfect color and perfect exposure. Check that off the list. Anyway, reason worth coming next week at least. Okay, so that's kind of what's going on here. If you click the next button one more time, you will go to the resources for this week. What I hopefully want you to get through this week. So if you take a look at the beginning part right here, again, this is broken up like this. This is the readings that I want you to actually get through. They're not really long, involved part, but the first one is one that you need to look at right now because of the way all the monitors in this classroom work. So if you click on this, this is specific to the monitors in this room and actually in, I'm fairly certain, in 903 and 904. I don't know where else it is. However, you should know this about these monitors. They calibrate these monitors at least every week. A lot of times they're doing these every other day. The problem is that these computers reset at night, and when they reset, they no longer keep the calibration monitor loaded. Does that make sense? So if you want to work with this as a calibrated monitor, you actually have to load it as a you have to load it. Hello? Have you guys lost me up here for like a long time?
No,
Or that just went out?
when you kind of
Okay. This is going to tell you exactly what you need to do, okay? And if you don't do this, now for you guys who are working on your laptops, you don't need to worry about this part. But for you guys who are working on these right here, again, every single night, these things are going to reset. And it doesn't throw away the profile. It just goes back to the original default calibration that actually happened for this guy. So this will simply walk you through it. It says that you are to open up the little Apple menu, come down to System Preferences, click on Displays. I need you guys to actually do this because yours is going to look different than mine. When you get the display up, if you click on the Color tab, you should have a display profile. If you look at your monitor right here, it's got a name and a number. You should find a monitor profile in there that's got the name and the number of the monitor that you guys have. Do you? Is that working for you guys? And then you simply need to select that one. So for instance, this is what mine is right here for something that I've done. So are we good on this, guys? Okay.
Is there a way to, like, do we need to worry about calibrating our laptop?
You massively need to worry about that, and we're going to get to that today. Okay, the 10 steps to perfect exposure. I don't think we're going to get to this today, but you can look at it. It's literally 10 steps long. Change your life. We will, if we do get to it today, we'll be great. We will get to that part. Reciprocity in photography has to do with f-stops. It is your language. Using a color checker passport. How many people in this room have never seen one of these? Okay, haven't seen, that's the question. Hands up high, good. So how many people not only have seen it, but use it all the time? How many people have no idea what this thing is or what to use it for? Okay, well, don't worry, we'll get to all of that. So this is a color checker passport. Change your life. We will talk about drifting in just a second. And then down here at the bottom, you will see that there is a long list of support. But again, we are going to go through things. So for instance, if there is anybody in here who is interested in buying a decent monitor to do their Photoshop work, their color work, anything color critical, whatever, there is articles in here about the best monitors and what you really need to be looking for in a monitor, right? However, if you're not, don't read this shit. You have better things to do. Does that make sense? You should realize that these things do exist. They're here for you. My advice is that before you leave this class, you download all the PDFs from this class and have them. because you didn't need the monitor this year, but you're going to need one in a year or two from now, and then you'll at least have a place to start. Make sense? Okay, are there questions about this? Are we good on this part? Okay. How many people in this room, again, I'm not familiar with the type of work that you guys shoot, but how many people in this room would say typically what they do is they decide they're going to make photography on a given day, whatever, and you simply go out and you wing it. You go look for something interesting. A lot of people are like that, right? So, and I'm guessing in your case, Bridget, there's assignments that you get, so it's more of you're aware of an event or something like that. So you're scouring calendars and that kind of stuff to look for things. Would that
Yeah.
sort of be a fair thing to say?
Mm-hmm.
For the fine art people, how many? Or let me ask you this: not even the fine art, but anybody in here, how many people in here actually build things to shoot? So, what kind of work do you guys actually do when you say you do that?
I do a lot of like setup, like structured images.
Okay.
So I set up like lighting, and then I do it typically with like still lifes.
Okay.
So I do a lot of like coffee still lifes.
Okay. So you're sourcing your subject matter, you're bringing all of that in, so that you basically you're building and then photographing what it is you ultimately build. That's for me exactly how my whole career was. Everything, and even when I started doing the fashion beauty stuff, whatever, I was always building sets, creating sets, whatever, and ultimately that for me evolved into a lot of composite work. So everything became fabricated. Nothing was real. So that's just me. The reason that I bring this up is that how many people in here would say that you do legitimate research for the image that you want to make? Now, for the people who are actually just going out and looking for stuff, I mean, hoping that they find stuff, whatever, that's probably not necessarily something that you are familiar with or working with. But I want to sort of have this conversation. The whole idea about thinking about an image that you might want to make and then building an element or a level of research into that. Does that sort of make sense? So if you think about an image that you might want to make, you want to, let's just say, we're just going to take a quick little, we're just going to say your neighborhood. It's accessible. It's just something, okay, I'm going to go out and I'm going to make pictures today. That's going to be the guy. And so you go out and you actually start you're looking for interesting things. You're looking for interesting light. Would that be something fair to say that you all pretty much do? Fair? So has anybody in this room ever stopped before that actually happened and said to themselves, well, I am really interested in longer shadows and deeper shadows. That's what I'm really interested in. So noon is probably not a good time for me to go out and do this. My time to really shoot is probably going to be much earlier in the morning or much later in the day. Would that be, are you guys thinking like that? Mm-hmm. Thinking that way? Okay, so that falls under the whole purview of research, right? You're thinking about something, about the images that you want to make. They're not there in front of you yet, but you're putting this in ahead of time to give yourself a better chance, a better opportunity to ultimately run into something or find something or realize something that's actually going to be something that you want to then photograph. Does that sort of make sense to you guys? So I need you to start thinking about this whole first assignment that I'm going to ask you guys to do is going to involve elements of that. It's not going to just be that, but it is definitely going to be elements of that. Are we good on this? Anybody in this room not have a cell phone that can take a picture? Good. Because the whole first assignment, I don't want you to actually do it with your camera. I want you to do it with your phone. So there are, I can't tell you, countless number of people who you can watch behind the scene videos of. Again, I'm a fashion guy. I'm not going to inundate because I don't. Is there anybody fashion people in this group at all? Oh, you can be. Okay. Anyway, so it's just I'm going to constantly throw out statements relative to the medium as I experience it, but I'm doing so hoping that you guys can abstract that into the way you shoot or the things that you care about shooting. So when I say I look at behind the scenes video and I see Nick Knight visualizing everything in the studio with his phone, it's because it's a way for him to be able to see. It's not because I'm trying to turn you on to some fashion photographer. I'm merely trying to point out that he does it as a way to see. Now, here's a guy who has got a $150,000 medium format camera with a state-of-the-art digital back that he makes his final photographs with. But that's not the way he begins his process. When he begins his process, you can actually, he has a film company that records basically all of his shootings, and they set up a camera in the studio, and the camera runs for 8 or 10 hours, and it's boring as can be, but you actually see him work, and he's constantly with his phone trying to see. Why would he care about seeing with his phone? What is about this? What does this do? Shoot.
Most people see it from their phone, probably.
Good point. Other things? Anyone?
It's not like a 2-point perspective like the eye.
Absolutely. And what does that mean?
It means that it's what the camera is going to see.
And what is the difference in what your eyes see and what cameras see?
You constantly adjust for like depth perception and perspective.
Do you guys, anybody in this room only have one eye? There's another famous fashion photographer, Albert Watson, who does have only one eye. And he's always claimed that it was part of his success because he could see like a camera would see. You see dimensionally, don't you? Don't you see three-dimensionally? Can't you tell that I'm in front of this screen? Can a camera promise you that? No. A camera can only see that two-dimensionally. Do things change when you actually shift them from 3 dimensions to 2 dimensions? How many people think they don't? So I tell people when they ask me what I do for a living, I say I take a 3-dimensional object, I turn it into a 2-dimensional object for a 1-dimensional person. It is the story of my life, I swear. Anyway, but the advantage of this is that it allows you, it turns everything into 2 dimensions. It's the way your camera will see. So I'm asking you in the beginning, the first shooting assignment, because what we're going to do is we're going to take a little time. The first shooting assignment that we do in this class, final prints are not going to be due till the 4th week. We're working our way slowly into this because I need to find out where you guys are in your Photoshop skills. I need to find out where your printing skills are. So I'm trying not to rush things here in the beginning, but I also want this to involve this guy right here to start with, because I do believe this is such a part of you, no? So why, there's people who reject this so much, and that just seems so stupid to me. So I'm going to put the shoe sort of on the other foot and say, let's just embrace this, and this is where I want you to start. So what I'm going to ask you to do, and if we go through, if you click on, you can click on the next button again, but I'm going to ask you really quickly to jump out so that we can look at our first week and a larger overview. Guys, I do keep pretty good tabs on time. So when we get around that 8 o'clock time, we definitely will take a break. I promise you that. So just so that you know, I'm aware of all that part. But if you come back out and you take a look at this drop-down menu on the left-hand side again, and you come down and click on modules, it will take you to an overview of everything that's happening through, again, as we scroll down through the class. So just so that I can get through the assignment parts to make sure that everybody understands what's going on here. So the first assignment that you're going to have here is this introduce yourself and attach a picture in a reply to 2 posts. It's a discussion board. I'm asking you to put a picture on there so that I can start to put faces and names together. The one thing I'll ask you please do not do is, I had a girl once who sent me a picture. She had actually put her camera at the south end of Grant Park. She focused it, just a regular lens, not a telephoto, regular lens. She focused it on the Pritzker Pavilion, and she stood in front of the Pritzker Pavilion in front of a car, a little Volkswagen, with sunglasses on. I couldn't even really tell that she was a person. I wasn't sure. She was a dot. She was this dot. And that was the picture she sent to me. I won't learn your name or who you are if you send me a dot picture. I also had a girl who sent me a picture of herself in a bikini on the beach once. Don't do that either. She turned out to be exactly like you would think by knowing only that one thing. Anyway, so that's the first assignment. The second assignment, I need everybody to click on this, if you wouldn't mind, just so that you can see how I structure these things. So anything that I can do to build a link in here to make navigation easier for you guys, I've actually done. So the first thing that you're going to see is this preamble about how you guys have the luxury of seeing a unique perspective. You are the answer to the world, blah, 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 blah. But what ultimately I'm going to ask you to do is open what's called a drift. Has anybody in here ever used? It's a program that existed. It was an application that existed on iPhones. I don't think it ever made it to Android, and I don't think you can get it on iPhone anymore. But has anybody ever here drifted? Okay, what drifting is about, there's a whole history to this. It's not something that's actually really completely new. There is a history of this. But the idea behind drifting is that you get lost in a familiar place. Make sense? So what I'm going to ask you to do, we're going to look at a series. I've built 5 drifts for you to choose from. During the course of this coming week, I want you to do 2 of them. But we're going to talk about those in a little bit greater depth in just a second, okay? But at any rate, so the assignment will actually walk you through the whole part here. It's to use your cell phone to actually go out on this drift, whatever. So we'll take a look at a drift in just a second, and then we'll come back to this so you can just see what's basically going on here. I want you to shoot a lot of pictures. Then I want you to narrow this down to your top 10. In your top 10, that's what you're going to turn in. That's what's going to be due next week. So you'll see here in the due next week that it's going to be a Lightroom catalog. This is how I need you to export it. They're very explicit directions about how to do this that are probably different than what you have done before in submitting these. Don't actually build this catalog until next week. We will do this together. It'll be the very first thing we do in class because it's how you're going to do all of your catalog submissions from now on. So I don't want you to go through all of this and fuck it up and then send in another one. We'll take this a step at a time, okay? Are we good on this? Okay, and it basically just tells you how to actually submit things and blah, 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 the whole 9 yards. Okay, with that being said, if you click on either one of these links that says drift, it'll take you back to our resource page, which is where these drifts actually exist. So we're going to click on one just so you can sort of see what is going on in a drift. So if you click on this, it should open up, hopefully, and this would be one. And it just says you can do this. Now, a lot of people would say you should do this in a completely familiar place. A lot of people would say you should do this in a completely new place, a place that you've never been before. I don't care. So, this is a drift. Walk south for 2 blocks, find evidence of a recent encounter, and take a picture of it. So you can see as you start to look through these instructions, what they are is they're ways to generate a random way of you looking at a familiar space, at a new space, at a novel space, but to do it with intent. Does that sort of make sense? However, in that process, I don't want you to be blind to the other images that present themselves while you are involved in this drift. Does that make sense? And I want you to then make pictures. These pictures are your research. Does that make sense? These are not to be your final pictures. This is not to be. Because what I am hoping you will consider in doing this is, well, let's start with an example. So I tend to walk away from this computer, and right now, unfortunately, the microphone on this computer is what is grabbing all the sound on the recording. If you watch the video of this class during the week, you'll hear my voice trail off a little bit, but you'll still be able to hear me, but that's why. We used to have really good mics that I could do, portable mics, but new computers have fucked all that up, so that part doesn't exist anymore. So at any rate, so I'm going to do a for instance here, though, with you guys. So I'm out on my drift, and I find this chair, and it's noon, and it's got interesting series of, well, where are the shadows? It's noon. They're pretty much going to be underneath them, right? I mean, depending on the time of the year, in the wintertime, the whatever. I love the shadow thing, whatever. But I'm thinking to myself, okay, what would really interest me would just be these really long linear shadows that are coming out from the side of this. That's what I'm really more interested in, right? And so I take a picture of it, and I'm looking at it, and I'm going, I don't like this chair. I love the shadows, though. And, okay, does that sort of make sense where things are going here? But what I need you to go beyond is, then you need to say to yourself this. So let's say this is a building. That's west. This is east, and it's completely open. That's north. There's another building right there. This is south. It's also completely open. I want to do really long shadow pictures of this chair. What time of day do I do it? So, ask yourself this. Am I ever going to get direct light from the north?
No.
No, so I'm never going to get any shadows from the north at all. I'm only going to get diffuse light, right? The south, I actually can get decent shadows from, right? The sun will travel into the south, so that could give me interesting shadows, right? I can also possibly get interesting shadows coming from the east, because this is completely open. And I get interesting shadows from the west. Why not? Because there's a fucking building right here. Right? So I say to myself, well, okay, so I know I can get shadows coming from the east, and I know I can get them coming from the south. What time of the day do I want to come back and visit this chair? The morning, probably, right? What time in the morning? What time's the sunrise? You fucking don't know. You've got a computer right there. You've got your phone right there. Somebody look up for me sunrise right now, Chicago. There's got to be a calendar that has it.
6:21.
What time? 6:20. So I want to be standing here at 6:20. What time do I have to get up? 6:18. It's right outside my apartment. I can be out there in my pajamas. I don't care. I've lost all sense of vanity and morality. So does this make sense where we're going with this? This is what I need you to do. When I talk about the research, this is what I need you to do. I want you to explore these spaces with a phone, a two-dimensional exploration of it, but I also want you to consider what it is you like about this. What is it you are looking for in this? So for those of you who construct things, there is no reason that you can't take this chair and turn it. There's no reason that you can't take this chair and put it upside down. There's no reason that you can't set it on fire. I don't care what you do if you want to be involved in that, but what I do care is that this becomes something that you seek out, you look for, you search for in the beginning, you make decisions about it, and then you go back and actually generate a final photo. Does that sort of make sense? So who have I lost here? Are we good on this? Good.
So do we have to? Are you saying you want us to develop these skills for later on shoots, but this first time we can just go out like once and try to have some intent?
What I want you to do is use your phone and follow this and take any interesting pictures you possibly can in between these instructions. Okay? You're going to do two of these. You can actually go to the exact same place, but the second drift is a different set of instructions. The third drift is a different set of instructions. How many people, when you walk down the street, Chicago, famous for its architecture, how many people walk down the street only looking up? I do all the time, right? Most people are looking like down, right? So part of what this drift is about is it's to ask you to do things that you wouldn't necessarily think about doing. It's to generate an image not based on a response to something visual, which is, I think, how most of us actually make photographs. Most of us see something, oh, that's interesting, click, and then you move on, right? I'm asking you to not think of it in that way. That's not to say I want you to pass those opportunities up. But, for instance, here is walking in any direction until you find something important and take a picture of it. Well, what's important? Do you think about photography that way? Most people don't. Most people are not going through saying, I'm looking for something important to take a picture of. Most people, PJ's art, for sure. But most people are, I'm looking for something that's visually interesting. Not important. Does that put a different spin on it? So I'm hoping that the drifting will give you a different framework to look through about making this first set of pictures. Are we okay on this?
So are we then going to go back to the same place?
It's up to you. When this assignment was originally written, it was extremely rigid. They didn't even let you use the camera to begin with. You actually had to map it out. It was all about pre-visualization. It had nothing about misdirection. It had none of these elements in it. Again, you guys are the guinea pigs. You are the first experiment here, and we'll see how it goes. Are there questions about this?
So there's 10 photos from each drift?
I have no idea. There's 18 instructions in each drift. If, to be perfectly honest with you guys, again, how many people in this room adult? I am hoping that you experience this and ultimately come up with, yeah, I think at the end I'm asking for 20 pictures. I don't know. Go back to whatever the assignment said. The assignments are pretty explicit. It looks like, yeah, 10 top images from that. The other thing that I want you to consider in this, and it's the instructions that exist right here. So if you read through this part, hopefully that'll also make sense. I want you to do things that you would consider. I'm more than happy for you to spend time shooting in what you would consider to be your comfort zone. But I also want you to consider shooting out of your comfort zone. That's also part of what this drift is about. It's about getting you to, well, let me ask you this. How many people in this room, does anybody in this room feel like you're in a photo rut? You do the same picture all the time, right? You approach it the same way all the time. We all do. So part of what this is about is to try to break out of that in a way. And even I will give you this. It is a complete abstract. There's no question about that. It's like, really? You want me to find evidence of a conflict and then take a picture of the sky right above it? Yeah. Are we good? Okay. So then next week when you come back, you can say to me, Verser, that sucked. Yes.
Are we editing the photos?
No. So the first thing that you're going to do next week, so this is what's going to happen. Next week, you're going to bring in your catalog of your cell phone images. That's all. You're not shooting with a DSLR this coming week, at least not for the assignment that I'm going to ask you to do. Next week, one of the things that I'm sure you guys have already found out about in a lot of these classes, whatever, is that is trying to balance critique time with learning new shit time, right? And that is a real delicate balance. So I am a huge believer in critique. I don't believe in doing all of this work and then getting no feedback for it has any ultimate positive circumstance out of it. So I do believe in that. But by the very same token, I can't have a 4-hour critique every other week, or we are only going to get through half of the material in this class, which would be a disservice to all of you. So I'm not going to let that part happen. So what is going to happen, or this is at least the way that I've got this planned out, is next week when you guys get here, we are going to break up into groups of 3 or 4 people. You are going to show those 3 or 4 people what you have shot on these drifts, your top 10 picks. And have a conversation, a mini critique about, well, that's interesting. Maybe you could pursue that, or no, that's ridiculous. Why did you do that? What, you guys get where this is going, right? So what I'm going to do is try in a very sort of expedited way, get you some feedback on where things started for you, so that then the next week, if you look at the next week, and we can go to it right now, we might as well go to it so that you at least have some idea of what's coming up in this class. So if you go back to modules again, we can go down to week number 2, and you'll see here, Photography is Research, Part 2. If you click on this, it's going to say that what I want you to do is, following the feedback you receive from the critique, return to the locations of your top 10 cell phone images and re-photograph them using your DSLR. But in this image capturing sessions, it starts to get much more serious. I need you to start considering all of these issues right here. I need you to consider things like lighting, the vantage point, the composition. It needs to go beyond what you are. So again, your cell phone images are notes for you. They are references for you. They're just the beginning of that conversation. Where the real photography starts is then what you do with that after your input from your group. Does that sort of make sense? Okay, so I'm relatively thick-skinned. What are you guys thinking right now? Say what?
Not the drifting.
Right.
But like I
You do this already.
all the time.
Okay,
Sometimes I
so
don't have
you're
my
going to be really
camera.
familiar with this.
Sometimes I don't have my camera with me, and I
Mhm.
always have my cell phone, so I'm constantly taking. And then if I'm like stuck in a rut of like what to go shoot, I'm like, what have I been taking pictures of?
Right.
What can I return to? And it's it'll say like the date and time.
Oh, yeah.
So you can see like was that the best lighting?
Yes. I'm sorry, what?
It often it puts out a map too sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can get GPS coordinates. You can do the whole 9 yards. Time of day.
If I'm in a car and I pass something interesting, I'll like do like a screenshot of where I am at Google Maps and then like go back later.
So,
Also drop a pin.
absolutely.
Yeah, totally.
All the above. And these are all things that I would strongly consider doing while you're actually out doing this walking around part. So for the people who actually tend to generate more in the studio kind of stuff, do you see the potential to do something in this?
So I do both.
Okay.
Like interchangeably.
Okay.
So I definitely see a benefit of both.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see where this thing ultimately goes. It's the one, it's the loosest of the assignments, to actually be honest with you guys. As we start to move into this, things start to get much less directed from my point of view, hopefully much more personal in your point of view. But again, I sort of wanted to start this to just sort of see where things are at and to just see where we go. Are there questions about this? Are we okay on this? Okay. We're getting there, guys. Going back, let's just look really quickly at week number 1 again, just to see what else is left to go through that, what I'm going to ask you to do. So introduce yourself to the discussion board. That's pretty straightforward. Start your drift and actually shoot pictures with your cell phone. This is, again, the beginning of the reading here. So this is, again, the first chapter in the textbook for this class. So again, if you were to simply click on the assignment, there's a link right here. If you click on the link, it takes you again back to hopefully the book that we've got, and you should be good to go on that. One last thing I want to point out here really quickly is you can see in the beginning right here that this first assignment has a 100-point value. Everything in this class is done on a scale of 100 points. I don't understand people who do like 20-point assignments. That never made any sense to me, but anyway. You will see that this also doing your catalog is also going to be a graded assignment, but you can see down here that this reading, there's no grade for this assignment. When it says here to complete the readings listed in session 1, resources, again, what we're talking about right here is here in session 1 in these resources where we're talking about how to do a monitor calibration, 10 steps to perfect exposure, reciprocity in photography. So that's basically what's going on. There's also a video in that week, and that's what this assignment 1.5 is about. So you can see it's relatively quick. A lot of the reading assignments here in the beginning are simply one-page PDFs. The video is, I have no idea how long the video is, but nonetheless. So don't necessarily get overwhelmed by the assignment parts just yet. Are we okay on that part? Okay. This is always the interesting moment. Anybody not know what that is? It's an F with a 2 next to it. We call those F stops. How many people in here feel like they know and can recite to me the F stops from F2 to, let's go to 32? Hold your hand up high if you really think you can do it. That is a fundamental say that is that this is your language. This is the language of your medium. And it's not just knowing f-stops. That's not the part that matters to me. It's knowing how to leverage the information that they give to you. Okay, so we're going to have this conversation right now in a really, really, really big way. How many people in this room, hopefully this will be a good one. How many people in this room want a career in photography when they leave Columbia College? Is there anybody in here who's not a photo student? Is there like any art and design or anybody? Multiple, right? You're sort of a multi-person? Oh, so the onus is even more on you. But we actually do an InDesign assignment here at the end of this class. Do you work in InDesign at all?
Yeah.
Any people, other people in here, InDesign people in here? Okay, so all those people who just raised their hand, everybody else needs to pay attention to who those people are, because those are the people that you're going to have to go to when it all gets really hairy at the end. Just saying. But anyway, back to the question that I had. Want a career in photography? Hopefully is a career in photography at the end of all of this experience. How many people? Again, hands up. So pretty much most of you, if not all of you, right? And so what is that career? Is it making fine art pictures at a gallery? Is that your career? Maybe. Is it being a photojournalist? Maybe. Is it being a commercial photographer? Is it somebody who shoots food or somebody who shoots fashion or somebody somewhere in there is going to be that, right? So how many people in here think that when they graduate from Columbia College, you're going to walk out the door on the 15th of May, and on the 16th of May, you're going to open your own studio and bingo, bang, things are going to go great? No chance. I'm just going to throw that out to you. There's no chance. So what are your alternatives? Whole Foods. I'm telling you right now, I say this to every single one of my classes, and inevitably, in every single year, I end up with at least one, if not two, not three, maybe four students, whatever, working at Whole Foods. And when I go walking in, they're like, can't let him see, I don't mean to put Whole Foods down or Starbucks or any of that kind of stuff, but I'm going to tell you, again, I'm going to tell you a little bit of my story, because this does pertain to what I think and at least the ambition that I have for each of you. When you leave here, if you do not stay in photography, you will not be a photographer. So what does that mean? Well, I say anything. Anything. You can be the photo assistant at the Sears Baby Studio, and you will stay in photography. You will continue to do your own work, and hopefully, if you're lucky, you can make it as a photographer. But if you go to work at Whole Foods saying to yourself, okay, I'm hopelessly in debt for my student loans, I just need to make a little more money, I'm going to spend 2 or 3 years just making some cash, get comfortable, and then I'll get back to my photography, you never, ever, ever will. I promise you that. That will not happen. So, what are your options? Photo assisting is a great one. And for me, that's how I did it. I graduated from art school. I got a job working at Playboy. That's where I really started to learn everything happened there. It doesn't have to be that. It can be anything that is photo related. You can be doing the pictures in the post office for passports. I don't care what it is, as long as it involves a camera and making pictures. Does that sort of make sense, what I'm hoping for each and every one of you? So this language is something that you are going to have to get that job, unless you are really lucky and somehow end up just being on your own or whatever. Does it sort of make sense? So this language becomes imperative to us. How many people in here are in studio lighting classes right now? One or two? One. Is there? Oh, and there is going to be a two. Yeah, because we've insisted. So you're in two right now? Okay, so you're getting into strobe and that kind of stuff right here. So all of this has to ultimately gets rolled into lighting as well. This whole conversation, this language about light. And if you don't know these things, you can't have that conversation. And I can promise you, it's the first thing, the first time you walk into a photo studio, somebody's going to say to you, I need you to knock 2 stops off that light. And you're going to go, I don't know what that means. Or I've heard of stops, but I don't really know what to do. And if that happens to you, you'll never get asked back again. Because everybody else in this room is going to know that shit, and they're in the line right behind you. Are we good on this? So you will come to learn that I am a fanatic about this stuff. I don't test you on this. Again, adults in the room, it's your language. You need to know this stuff. You need to have this, to have that conversation. Okay? So, with that being said, nobody in this room can see this red pen, can they? Can you guys see this? Okay, so F2 is where we're going to start here. I do this all the time. Okay, so I'm going to have two here. What's one stop down from that? One stop down from that. 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 64, 90, 90. Down from that. 128. Down from that. 180. Down from that. 256. Did you know that there's an F256? By the time you get that small, in most cases, you've actually got a pinhole camera and have infinite depth of field. What is the relationship between any of these two numbers? So the difference between 16 and 22, what's the difference? 1.4 is the difference in 16 and 22? Okay, what was the very first thing I promised you guys in this class?
No math.
It would only be adding. Didn't I say 2
really?
plus 2 would be the most math I would ask you to do? Right? I appreciate where you're coming from. And you're not wrong. But that's not where I'm going with this. Okay? So, the relationship between F22 and F16. What is the amount, difference in light? Does anybody give me any idea? A stop. Well, what does that mean? So here's the trick, guys, and this is the thing that makes this so incredibly powerful, but also the thing that you need to do or to know about all of this. I'm going to chop this off at 64 just so I don't scare anybody any more than I already have. And I'm going to get rid of the F over here. The difference in every single one of these is either a doubling or halving of light. So, as I move from F32, is F32 a big aperture or a little one?
Little.
It's a little one. We all comfortable with that? It's a small little dot, right? As we start moving in this direction, we're actually opening that aperture up bigger and bigger and bigger, right? We're letting in more light. How much more light? It's a doubling. So if I go from F32 to 22, I've doubled my light. If I go from 22 to 16, I double it again. Does this make sense? Okay, this is where it gets tricky. Not tricky, but this is what it means. So I'm going to say that at F32, I get one, I'm going to do this. This is going to be photons of light. A photon is actually a particle of light. And let's say at F32, it lets one photon in. How many is F22 going to let in? 2. Does that make sense? So I'll get 2 photons of light there. How many at 16? 4. Exactly. How many at 11? How many at 8? How many at 5.6? How many at 4? How many at 2.8? And how many at F2? And if I go to 1.4, the next stop open. Yes. Does this make sense to everybody? Are we good on this? Who does not get this? Don't be ashamed. Who's a little foggy about this? Okay, we're comfortable on this, right? Okay. Believe me, I got my eye on the time, guys. I'm going to get you out of here at 8 o'clock for a break. Because this is going to hurt before this is over. So, at F2, I've got 1,000 photons that are coming in. What do I get at F2.8? Exactly. So then when I go from 2.8 to 4, how many? 250, and then at 5.6, 125. So you get how this is going, right? So it's always doubling and halving, doubling and halving, doubling and halving, always. Are we good on that? Okay. How many people in here have ever shot with a mechanical shutter? Okay. 4x5 view camera, any of those kind of older cameras that have mechanical shutters on them. In today's cameras that you guys shoot with, most digital cameras, have an infinite number of shutter speeds. But in older series cameras, they didn't. You actually had to set a specific shutter speed. Would anybody know what that range would typically be? I can tell you what it is. So if we start at the long end, most of them could actually get to a second. So this would be 1 full second. Then it would go to a half a second, to a quarter of a second, to an eighth of a second, to a 15th of a second, to a 30th of a second, to a 60th of a second, to a 125th of a second, to a 250th of a second, to a 500th of a second, to a 1000th of a second. Does anybody see a pattern here? What? Doublings and halvings. Right? It gets a little, they cheat a little bit right here. I mean, to go from an eighth to a 15th, but it's close enough. We would say close enough for government work. It's close enough. But you can see that when we go from 1 second to a half a second, we've cut our time in half. To go to a quarter of a second, it's been cut in half again. To go from a 60th of a second to 125th, that's the only place it gets a little. But again, it makes the math easier, and it's really, really, really close. Does this make sense, what's going on here? And then when I go in the other direction here, as I start to move up in here, it's doubling my time. Doublings and halvings, doublings and halvings, doublings and halvings, right? So you can see that these things are related in terms of exposure. So what makes up the exposure? When you go to make an exposure, what controls exposure in your cameras? Aperture, ISO,
Shutter speed.
and shutter speed. Aren't those the three things that actually control it? Right?
Yep.
So, with this all, I'm going to leave this part up here so you guys can actually get this part. What is ISO? We talked about aperture. So aperture is actually the hole inside of your lens that lets light in. And the bigger the hole, the more light comes in. The smaller the hole, the less it comes in, right? Everybody's good on that, right?
Yep.
Shutter speed. It's how long you let the light come in. But then what's ISO?
How sensitive your camera sensor is to that light that it's coming in.
Exactly. It's how sensitive you're registering your sensor to be. Or in the case of film, is anybody in here still shoot film? No. I know a lot about film. That's all I can say. If you're really a film geek and you want to get together and geek out on film at any time at one point, whatever, I'm your guy. So it would be the same thing with ASA and film. Okay, it's the sensitivity of the film. Higher ASAs or faster films, they are more sensitive to light. So again, that's going to control what we consider to be the perfect exposure, right? All right, so I'm going to come up with a hypothetical exposure here. I'm going to do an ISO of 100. And I'm just going to do the standard typical exposure everybody in the whole world, whenever they quote these things, always does. I'm going to do 125th of a second at f8. And that equals perfect exposure, PE. Sounds like recess. Should we just call it a day right now? I'll just go to the bar and start drinking. Be a little more vigilant and get to at least a little bit more tonight, and then we'll go out some other night. Okay. So that's going to be my perfect exposure, right? Okay, I'm going to make a change here. I'm actually going to say, because I'm the mean-ass art director that is working with you, and I'm going to say, looking at this first exposure, well, yes, it's exposed correctly, but you've got somebody running. And they're blurry. 125th of a second will not stop somebody running. So, what will stop somebody running?
500.
500th of a second I have? Do I hear
500.
500? Do I hear anything else? Now you're getting more into the real range. 500 is for the people who are only going to put their shit up online in a really small little photograph, or on a really shitty print, really shitty newsprint. Yeah, I know, right? I had all of my first images, whatever, were all done. I used to work for a newspaper, and it was always like, whoa, that's helpful. So they want to freeze things. They want to freeze things. So I know I need to go to 1,000th of a second. What does that mean to me? Well, so most of you right now, instead of looking and really quickly doing the calculation in your mind, you would simply set your camera to 1,000th of a second, and then you would start fucking around with your aperture thing to get it to read, for the needle to be in the little middle part again, and shoot another picture and hope and pray. Right? That's not how I work, and that's not how anybody in any studio works. In any of those situations, somebody's going to say, okay, 1,000th of a second, what is the difference in 125th and 1,000th of a second?
3.
Stopwise. So, we're going from here, 125th to a 250th, that's 1 stop, to a 500, 2 stops, to 1,000, 3 stops. So I have lost 3 stops of light.
So add 3 stops of light.
How do I get that back?
Aperture.
Open up my aperture. So I'm at f8. I need more light or less light? I need more light because I've cut the time way down. How much more?
2.8 more.
3 stops. Going from f8, 5, 6 is 1, 4 is 2, 2, 8. At f2.8, it is the exact same perfect exposure, but I am able to freeze my people. Your language. So you will constantly hear this happen. People will constantly be saying, I need you to lose 2 stops. What does that mean? Well, in any case, I'm shooting here again. I'm going to go back to this. This is no longer perfect exposure. I've got an art director, not an art director, but a photographer. I'm the assistant. I got a photographer. I'm setting the camera for him. He's shooting remote control. He doesn't care. He's looking at the screen. He's not even. I'm the guy out in the rain by the tripod with the little umbrella trying to shoot pictures. He's in the van just yelling orders to me in some walkie-talkie or cell phone. I need 2 stops more light. What does that mean? Well, what are 2 stops more light than this? Can you give that to me? Is there only one way I can get that? Are there multiple ways I can get that?
Multiple.
So what's one way I can get it? I need 2 stops more light. How can I do that?
F4.
1/30th of a second. So I'm at 125th. 1, 2. So a 30th of a second at f8 is plus 2 stops. What else can I do? I could stay at 125th.
At F4.
And go again aperture-wise. So from here, 1, 2. So I'm at f4. Also plus 2 stops. Does this all make sense? Yes.
Didn't you also do 1/60th and 5.6?
It wouldn't be 1/60th. What I could do here is I can actually, yes, I can do both. So I can do an additional stop at a 60th of a second at f5.6. You're absolutely right. So I get 1 more stop in aperture and 1 more stop in time.
Oh, 2. Whoa.
And this also equals plus 2. Make sense?
Then what do they want? How do you know what to do?
That's a great question. How do you know what to do? Why do you make these decisions? Yes.
Depends on depth of field a lot of times.
I was going to say, what is aperture controlling?
Depth of field.
Depth of field. How many people here shoot wide open all the time? Oh, good, because your pictures have a prayer of being in focus. Not a great one, but a prayer, at any rate. But that's it. The trade-off is shutter speeds control the sense of motion. So again, the higher the shutter speed, the more you tend to freeze it. The lower the shutter speed, the more you can actually drag motion out. You can actually get stuff to street, right? And then the opposite part of that is that aperture controls depth of field. How many people in this room are comfortable know what depth of field really is? So what is it? And can you be a little more, when you talk about different planes, can you be a little bit more specific about that? What is a plane of focus?
Well, like when you look at stuff, like everything is on different planes, and so when the camera looks at it, it compresses it, and so
Right.
how many of those planes it actually.
Right. So, perfect example. I'm going to hold this eraser right here. You have the camera, you're going to take a picture of me, right? You see the eraser, you see me, and you see the thing behind it, right? So, in a really super shot, and you're focusing on my eyes the whole time. By the way, just so you guys know this, I'm just going to throw this out to you, everybody in here. How many people in here do not shoot people? So, everybody shoots people, right? If I give you nothing else tonight, this is the fucking golden ticket right here. If the eyes are in focus, the image is in focus. If the eyes are not, the image is not. And it does not matter. I am telling you this right now. If you get my eyes in focus, everything else can be blurry as shit, but people will go, wow, that image is sharp. It's in focus. And you're going to go, yeah. Especially the people who are paying you, that you want to feel that way. But if everything in the image that's really important is sharp as a tack and the eyes are soft, whatever, they won't pay you. All right, so anyway, back to this. So I'm holding this here. You're focusing on my eyes. That thing is behind me, right? At f2.8, do you think everything is going to be sharp? No. My eyes will be sharp, but this will be probably soft, and that will be probably soft, right? Somewhere in the distance, working its way forward from me, focus, or what we would perceive as focus, really ends. And you start to say, well, that's out of focus. And the same thing happens going backwards, right? So that's what we mean by depth of field. If this is, I'm now going to regale you guys with my drawing skills. This is a figure right here. I'm looking straight down on top of this figure. This is a camera right here that's taking a picture of this figure. And what depth of field really means is that if I can focus on this person's eyes, whatever, at a certain point right here, depending on my aperture, all of this area in here will actually be in focus. As I start to stop down, my aperture down, this range extends. It gets larger. Does that make sense? As I start to open up, if I get into here, into this 1.4 range, the range actually starts to get incredibly narrow. Does that make sense? And this distance right here, this is what we were talking about with this depth of field. Are we good on that? So it's always this balance between the two. What do you want in focus? However, are there ever times where you really want a shallow depth of field?
Mm-hmm.
When? Portraiture is a classic one. You're doing portraits, you really just care about the person, you really want to separate them from the backgrounds. So one of the tricks to doing it is you can do it with lighting, but one of the tricks is to make the people really sharp, but the background so unbelievably soft that they lift up off of those things. It's why so many people shoot in studios, is because it's sort of built in. Does that sort of make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that would be one option for doing that, right? Depth of field, though, has the flip side of that. So where would you want infinite depth of field? Where would you want to really feel like you could see it all forever? Landscape, absolutely. Buildings, cityscapes, that kind of stuff, whatever you really want. So it's a visual choice that you're actually making, but it's a tool that you've actually got to do it with. We've already talked about the situation about time, right? The difference in somebody running at 1 second, well, that actually might be something that would be compelling for you because it really would give an indication of motion. It would give an indication of time, right? But if you had somebody who was like, well, fuck, I'm shooting pictures, you're shooting pictures of Nike and I want to see the swoosh. How do you feel about the new Nike campaign? Do you support that? Yes.
I think it's interesting how he can go out of light and then come back because of it. No one was talking about this for the last 3 months. Now it's back.
Right.
Well, maybe not in certain circles.
Right. Yeah.
How do we feel about Nike making the move to do it?
Brave.
Brave.
Capitalizing off of it.
Oh, I like
Yeah.
that. Actually, I like both of those answers because I think both of those are correct. I think it was brave number one, but I think it's also incredibly calculated. It did. It took a hit, but where it really matters is where their stock is going to be in 6 months.
It's social branding too.
too.
Absolutely.
They know what they're doing.
In a frighteningly good way. A good way. That's a poor choice of words. In a frighteningly calculated way. They're not stupid people. Anyway, I was just curious sort of about that. What do you think about the picture? You haven't seen it? No, just do a quick search for it. Actually, I think it's a pretty compelling photograph. Myself. It's interesting because sort of like his real trademark, the whole Afro hair trademark kind of thing, whatever, is completely gone. I mean, they removed any reference to that, but you know who it is. Anyway, I digress. Okay, we're almost done here, guys. I got 4 minutes left. So, everybody comfortable with this? Who's not? Okay, well, hopefully this won't be the twist. There's one last thing that we've talked about in terms of controlling exposure, and that is what? ISO, the sensitivity of your camera. If you look at the sensitivity on most ISOs, again, you can set really weird numbers. You can set your ISO at 116 or so. I know. You can set really weird numbers. But the standards most people work with, again, in a typical 35 millimeter camera, what is the lowest ISO you can shoot at?
100.
Most of them is actually 100. How many people in this room know that you can actually change a setting on most cameras and get it down to a 50 ISO? You can. Is there an advantage to that? You would think there would be, but it's not. So I'm just here to tell you the next bit of wisdom that I can give you is that custom option to actually get your camera down to a 50 ISO is an enormous mistake. Don't do it. Yes.
Also, most digital sensors have preferred ISOs.
They do.
For their color setting.
Well, the thing is, the truth of it is, a sensor has one sensitivity.
Yeah.
Everything else is it's basically what we would call amplification. But you can't, when you change the ISO rating of your camera, you didn't pull the sensor out and put another one in that's twice as sensitive. It is what it is. It's just how much you're amping that signal up. But nonetheless, we digress. So, 100 ISO. What would be twice as sensitive? 200 ISO. What would be twice as sensitive from that? And twice as sensitive again? 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 These numbers look familiar to anybody? It's the numbers you see all the time because they're the standard ISO settings. Why are these standard? Because they're halves and doublings. It's exactly the same relationship as shutter speeds as apertures. These are all halvings and doublings. So I've got my 100 ISO. Here, we're going to just, you guys can remember that, right? Never mind, you can't remember that, so hang on. And I could just do this all day. I could just get really, no, I know. Okay. So, I've got a perfect exposure, 100 ISO. We're going to go back to our standard. F8 at 125th. This gives me perfect exposure. I want to change this though. I actually want to, I've got an art director who's saying, you need to stop the motion, you need to be at that 1,000 shutter speed, whatever, but I don't want this changing depth of field shit. That f2.8 thing that you shot was garbage. There was nothing in focus. You stopped the person, but you focused 2 feet behind them. And you're like, shit, I wish I used autofocus. How many people in here use autofocus? How many don't? God, you guys hate your life, don't you? It's just like, okay, I'm going to find something. I need a bigger stick to beat myself with harder. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, I come from an era, whatever, we used to use for fashion, especially in the 80s, monster long lenses that were really, really, really shitty optics by design because they made everything really soft. If you were managed to get your subject in focus, It was great, but we were all shooting film, so nobody could actually see anything until the next day. So, however, it was a nightmare. Focus was a nightmare. And when autofocus came along, all of us were like, oh, yay, Eureka. Anyway, okay, so, but the goal in this is that I want to be at 125th, I want to be at 1,000. I want to stay at f8. What can I do? Can I do this and still have perfect exposure? How? ISO. So how much do I need to change that? And this is the best I can give you guys. Do this on paper, at least in the beginning. Don't try to figure this just in your head. Just write it down really, really quickly, whatever. I still do this all the time. So the difference in 125th and 1,000th, I've gone to a much faster shutter speed. So is this new setup letting in more light or less light? It's less light, so I need to increase my sensitivity. How much? In stops. Well, again, if I go from 1,000, 1, 2, I'm losing 3 stops of light by moving from this 125th to 1,000th, right? So this move right here costs me 3 stops of light. Can I pick that up in ISO? Well, my ISO here is 100. What ISO do I need to be at? 800. So again, it's 3 stops. You need to count this out. So this was 1, 2, 3. So an 800 ISO will be exactly the same perfect exposure, but I will have stopped my figure and kept a greater depth of field. So what's the upside and the downside to ISO? Increasing or decreasing it? Noise. Anybody in this room not familiar or comfortable with what noise is? Most of you have nothing but noisy pictures, because in spite of the fact that you think that you do have perfect exposure, most of you's exposures suck. Most of you guys are 2 to 3 stops underexposed, which means you've left at least 3/4 of your available data on the floor. Did you know that? 1 stop underexposed. 1 stop underexposed is half of your data. 2 stops underexposed is 3/4 of your data. 3 stops underexposed, you believe you can save that in software, but you can't. And your pictures are noisy as shit. I'm going to change that, if not today, next week. Are there questions about this? Are we good on this? Okay. So I've got
8:05.
8:05. You guys can be back at 20 after. That'd be great.
What do I do now? Hey, can I have a favorite?